Ruckers and maulers, kickers and ballers. Welcome to this first episode of Rugby in the Majors. I'm Brendan Liebenberg, coming to you from Johannesburg in very sunny South Africa. Hopefully my head survives this recording. I'm sure I wasn't the only one to be really happy about the fact that rugby was finally inducted into the Major League family. So where have we come from 2018 to 2019? 7 teams to 9 teams. We of course now have Rugby United New York and the Toronto Arrows joining the fray. That includes the East Coast and Canada. We've gone from a 10-week regular season to a 19-week regular season. That's 8 matches to 16 matches before the playoffs, with everybody playing each other home and away. And that's the way it should be. Of course, last season, we only started in April and ended in early July. Now, of course, this weekend, the first round of matches take place, and the last round takes place on the 2nd of June, with the playoffs thereafter. Let's take a brief look back at last season. The Glendale Raptors topped the log with 7 out of 8 wins. Both semi-finals then took place at Infinity Park in Rugby Town, Glendale. The first semi-final, of course, were the Seattle Seawolves, who were second in the standings, beating the San Diego Legion 38-24. The Raptors then downed the Utah Warriors 34-21 to set up a final at the neutral venue of Torero Stadium in San Diego. There, of course, the Seawolves surprised the Raptors 23-19. I say surprise because Glendale beat Seattle twice in the regular season. So it was somewhat of a surprise, but hey, at the end of the day, they pitched up in the final and were the first inaugural Major League Rugby Shield champions. So who were the standout players last season? Top of the try scoring standings was Tonata Lauti of the Utah Warriors with 9 tries. Then Harley Davidson of the Glendale Raptors scored 7. I suppose if your surname's Davidson, you have to be called Harley. Enjoy that sponsorship. Third was Zach Fenoglio, also of the Raptors with 6. And then we have 4 players on 5 tries. Hosea Vithi of the Houston Sabercats, Osea Kolinisau, also of the Sabercats, Anthony Saliba of San Diego, and William Ruseleka of the Seattle Seawolves. As you can hear, a lot of Fijian influence amongst those try scorers. Top point scorer was Australian Sam Windsor, playing for the Sabercats as well, the only man to breach the century mark with 103 points. Timothy Gilliman of Austin Elite with 84, Will Maggie with 77, and South African-born JP Eloff playing for Nola Gold with 65. He is, of course, the younger brother of Philip, who played for the US Eagles in 2 World Cups in 2003 and 2007. So, first round fixtures. Saturday, the inaugural match for the Toronto Arrows. They're playing at Nola Gold in New Orleans, 2 p.m. Central Time. Houston Sabercats at Austin Elite in the capital. That is, of course, a Texas derby, or should I say derby. Kickoff 7 p.m. Central Time. Last season, Houston beat Austin 50-28. Then we have 2 matches on Sunday. Rugby United New York travel for their first match ever to San Diego Legion at Torero Stadium, 2 p.m. kickoff Pacific Time. And in a repeat of the 2018 championship match, the Glendale Raptors travel to the Seattle Seawolves, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Last season, of course, as I mentioned, the Raptors won both matches, 19-15 and 33-11, until, of course, the Seawolves upset them in the final. Of course, there are 9 teams, so one team does have to have a bye, and that falls to the Utah Warriors. They will, however, play their first match on the 1st of February, and that's next week, Friday. You might be asking yourself, why is this mustachioed, colourful sock-wearing South African worried about Major League Rugby? Well, I'd really love to see Rugby United States go to another level. I am Facebook friends with Kees Lensing, the former Blue Bulls and Namibia international prop. And I just happened to look on his Facebook wall in early November. And he was asking if anyone was coming from Johannesburg to New York in the next couple of weeks to please bring a parcel for him. So I messaged him immediately and said I was available to do that. He then gave me a WhatsApp call and explained that he'd really like me to bring a lollipop to New York for him. So initially I was a bit confused, And then of course he explained to me that a lollipop is a piece of rugby equipment that the hookers use to throw at. So there's a disc on a long pole, and of course it is target practice for the hookers. So I took it as carry-on luggage, or should I say I checked it into the plane, and we met when I first arrived in the United States, and I handed that over to him. I attended their training session. Now all I can say is it was the coldest night of my life. I wore as many clothes as I could possibly wear, and I was questioning all my life decisions at that point. I did, however, conduct a few interesting interviews with various players and their coach Mike Tolkien.
It brings a new challenge. It's things that we're creating a team from nothing, basically a pro team from nothing. So that's a challenge. We got guys from all different levels and different countries playing together. So we're all trying to get them on the same page. And, facilities are always a challenge in New York. So a lot of challenges, but a lot of eager and a lot of talent.
I took a few good pics, a few videos of the training session. It was extremely interesting, extremely cold, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. But more importantly, I saw the commitment of the players practicing in almost sub-zero temperatures. So let's see if that'll help the New York rugby team going forward. The schedulers have been quite kind in the way they've set up the matches. You'll notice that the teams in the north are playing most of their matches in the early rounds down south, and then later on play a lot of home matches. So well done to Major League Rugby for that. So every week I will be previewing one team that's looking at their squad, their coaching staff, their training facilities, and looking at their prospects during the season. Of course, as matches are played, that will change and we will have more information to go on. So please, clubs, send me as much as you can. I'd love to engage with you. At the end of this video, I'll give you all my contact details, and let's take this to the next level. So I'd like to close off with what I call Bren's End. The United States have been called the sleeping giant of world rugby. And it's been many decades now since that moniker was placed upon them. So will this finally be the time American rugby stands up and is counted? The national team under Gary Gold has been doing extremely well over the last couple of years, reaching a highest world rugby ranking. Now with one season of Major League Rugby behind them and a second double round this season, that can only be good for rugby in the United States and for Canada as well. So let's hope that more and more foreigners get involved in the league, highlighted by someone like Piedri Vandenberg, former Springbok flanker, is on the coaching staff of Austin Elite. Having those type of former players and coaches involved in the system can only help the youngsters. And I personally would love to see the American national team at least make the quarterfinals of a Rugby World Cup. This year's World Cup might be a step too far, but surely in 2023 in France, it is a possibility. By that time, they would have had 6 Major League Rugby competitions. So here's hoping that American rugby sees a new dawn, utilizes this, and moves to the next level. Tell me what you think on social media. I'd love to hear. Are you a fan of any one of the specific teams, of North American rugby in general, Canada, the United States? Please message me on Twitter at rugby_majors, or put a comment under this video on YouTube and Facebook. You can find the videos under Rugby in the Majors on Facebook and YouTube. Please engage with me, even if you'd like to send me an email, bowtie.media.sport@gmail.com. And as I said earlier, I want to put it out to all the teams, to Major League Rugby in general. Please send me as many clips and photos as you can. I'd love to engage with you. What do you think about my moustache? What do you think about my socks? If there's sponsors out there, obviously we'd love to talk to you. That's the first episode of Rugby in the Majors. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week.